Welcome to the Financial Power Play, the podcast where hockey meets real life money talk. I'm Brett from Uptown Wealth Management, here to help hockey families and professionals create a financial game plan that works on and off the ice. From the rink to retirement, this is your go-to for real stories, smart strategies, and trusted advice. Let's drop the puck and dive in. Hi, welcome to Financial Power Play. I'm Brett Cranson, and I'm here with me is Daniel Ciampini, ex-pro hockey player, now real estate investment mogul or firm. So let's welcome Daniel to the podcast. Hey, Daniel, how's it going today?
Hey, thanks for having me, Brett. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. So let's start out with your hockey journey. So when did you start playing hockey and how did you sort of get involved and start loving the game?
Yeah, it was obviously like many guys who started playing the game. It was when I was younger. I was probably about two or three. My dad put me on skates. My dad played. He wanted his son to try it out and see if he liked it, and I kind of just took off on the ice. And from there on, like I grew up with a stick in my hand, smacking pots and stuff, and in the kitchen with my mom and my dad, and playing goalie in front of the cupboards, and then yeah, just slowly kind of over time, got to play AAA, and then fell in love with the game as well. When I was younger, I played soccer at a high level too, so I got to the point when I was 15, I had to kind of decide which route I wanted to go to, college or OHL, and also the soccer route to continue. So yeah, it was quite a bit of a journey. A lot of travel, a lot of tournaments, as a lot of minor hockey families can relate to. So just grateful for my parents being able to sacrifice their time and the effort and more importantly the money, because that's a big commitment, especially the minor hockey ranks, to give me the opportunity to grow and to have the career that I was able to carve out over 30 years.
That's awesome. So then you play, well, through your, I guess, minor hockey days, you kind of went to university after that. So when did you start thinking that you wanted to go to school instead of, like, let's say, going to the OHL route? Because at that time you couldn't go OHL. If you played in the OHL, you couldn't go to school. You couldn't go to NCAA. So
Yeah.
when did you kind of figure out the best path for you at that time?
Yeah, I think it started when I was probably about 13 or 14. My mom's a huge proponent of education. Um, we had long discussions about it, and then when it became a reality in my minor midget year for me, and I was going to get drafted, teams were calling me, and I had kind of said that I would report to training camp, but in the back of my mind, I kind of always felt like I wanted to go to school, just a development piece for me. I was still 140, 150 pounds, so the OHL wasn't really at the forefront for me. I went to Peterborough. I was drafted. I was their second pick in the draft, so I went to Peterborough, did the 48-hour rule, and I kind of knew the writing was on the wall that I was going to get sent home anyways, which kind of worked into my favor. They still liked the way that I played. They offered for me to stay at Peterborough and play in the junior team and have the opportunity to get called up, but I just felt like going back, playing another year. I played midget and able to just grow and develop and get bigger. And as fate would have it, that's kind of the time I sprouted. I got bigger, stronger. I put on about 15 pounds over the course of the year and the summer. So, and then I just kind of felt like school was the ultimate route that I wanted to take. I got offered to play with St. Mike's Buzzers, the junior A team at the time. We were in a pretty competitive loop there. And so that is kind of where the trajectory took off for me to focus on college and exploring that opportunity.
That's awesome. So then, when you're playing for the Buzzers in OJHL, Ontario Junior Hockey League, then you had an opportunity from there. You went to the NCAA. How was that process when you were playing junior to go into the NCAA? Did you have a lot of teams or schools come to you? And then how did you make a decision if you had lots of schools that were looking at you? How did you make a decision to go to Union?
Yeah, so I actually was committed to Clarkson after my second year, but I tore my ACL at Christmas, so I had to have surgery. Couldn't go in that following year. Clarkson had a coaching change, so the coach I committed to was out, so they kind of said that they were going to go in a different direction. He wanted to bring in his own recruits. So I had to play another year, and at that point in time, I had it was pretty much down to Union, Bowling Green, Holy Cross was the other team that's it's in the Atlantic. I went to Union. It was the last school I visited. It was on my birthday, ironically. Yeah, it was just kind of when I got there. It was a small school, 2,200 students, private school. The education, you're in classes of 15 to 20 kids. So I know it was going to be very hands-on with the students and teachers and the interaction. So when the time came, they called me and they said they needed a decision whether because they wanted to move on another player. Otherwise, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. Upstate New York, my parents is a 6-hour drive. They could come watch. We played up north pretty much most of the time. So yeah, it was an easy decision for me to make at that time, and definitely grateful for it. Union wasn't really on the map at the time. The year I committed was the first year they actually made it to the regional tournament and won their conference. So they were a program on the rise, and I felt like I could kind of jump in and join and help them.
That's awesome. And then while you were there, you were Hobie Baker finalist. So tell us, like, what is the Hobie Baker Award, and then um, how did they sort of pick you to become a finalist?
Yeah, so the Hobie Baker Award is essentially like the MVP of all of college hockey. They do the award based off of majority your play, but also like what it embodies to be a student athlete. So, a lot of the guys that won it, like the year that I was a finalist, Jack Eichel won it. The year before was Johnny Gaudreau. So the guys who have won it are kind of pivotal pieces for college hockey, I'd say. So to be even named in that list as a finalist was a pretty cool feat for myself. And yeah, I mean, my senior year, I had a great season personally. At points of the year, I led the nation towards the end in goals. Jack Eichel had a couple less games than I had played because he was at World Juniors. So, but it was still, nonetheless, it was still such a cool opportunity to be spoken in that same conversation with those guys, and just to be recognized in college hockey.
Awesome. That's so then from the NCAA, you went pro to the AHL, but you were never drafted to the NHL. So how was that process? Like, did you think you were going to get drafted in NHL? Did you have teams talking to you? And then how did you transition like into like getting your AHL contract, I guess?
Yeah, my draft year when I was 18, I was like barely playing at St. Mike, so I knew that there was really no chance between my 18 and 19-year-old year. Guys on my team had gotten drafted: Nick D'Agostino, Riley Smith, obviously still storied career right now with Vegas. Those were kind of high-end talents there. I knew that my path was going to be a lot different. I spoke about it before. My development, was kind of growing at a different pace than some of these guys. And so when the opportunity came, my junior year at college, so my third year, we won the national championship, which was a pretty cool feat. And I had a bunch of opportunities to go to development camps, and that was kind of when I realized that the opportunity now was a little bit more in my foreground than it was previously. So I ended up going to Vancouver's development camp, had a really good development camp. There was an opportunity for me to leave school at that time. I just wanted to go back and play another year, and to play my senior year, my fourth year. I just felt like it would be best for my development and, just kind of the longevity. And I put so much time and effort into that, building the program. I just wanted to go back and finish, and I felt like pro hockey was going to be there at the end of my senior year, whether it was meant to be or not. So yeah, I signed out of college with San Jose's farm team in the AHL. I played 15 games there at the end of the season, so I got a good taste of the AHL. I had pretty good finish there, which allowed me to then sign a contract with the AHL team, and then I was kind of up and down the East Coast League. My first full year pro, just a lot of trades happened. They had won the Stanley Cup the year before, so not only does politics happen in minor hockey, it happens even in pro.
Yeah, and it looks like you were up and down quite a bit through your pro career with the AHL and ECHL. So how did you overcome that adversity, uh, going up and down so, I guess, frequently I mean, it looks like as your career went on, you started playing more games in the AHL, but still every season you played in the East Coast Hockey League as well. So how did you overcome that adversity through that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, for myself, it was tough at first. Like, I'm not gonna lie. My first year when I was in Rockford, and they told me after training camp that I was gonna go down, just to kind of play games. And at first, I was really frustrated. But then I realized, like, I'm no use sitting in the stands. So my development doesn't happen if I'm sitting in the stands. So even nowadays, I tell parents when they ask me, like, where should my kid go play? It's like wherever your kid is actually going to be on the ice, because ultimately they can't do anything from the bench. Scouts don't scout people on the bench. So for me, it was like I started to understand that it might not mean anything right now for me to play with Chicago, or to get called back up to the AHL with that team, but every given night there's scouts in the building watching you, watching your attitude, watching your the way your game looks, how you're developing. So I always, some of the older guys had spoken to me about making sure you put your best foot forward every night, because you never know who's watching. Trades happen all the time. I could have gotten traded at the time. And then ultimately everyone has notes. So at the end of the year, if you want to re-sign or go to a different team, you kind of have the background of your play or your track record that's just based off your performance. So I kind of switched my mentality. Like, if I want to make this a career, I got to really put my best foot forward no matter where I'm playing. As long as I'm on the ice, I had advice when I was in college. As long as your coach is throwing you over the boards, you have nothing to complain about, right? Like, it doesn't really make a difference. That's kind of the most important thing. And that's something that I took with me my whole career, and allowed me to be more of a staple towards the end of my the end of my North American career, and stick around with Ottawa's farm team.
That's some great advice too. Like, players, I hear it all the time too, that you want to get ice time and development are the two key things. Not really worry about the wins and losses or what kind of team you're on. You want to be you want to be on the ice as much as can and get into all the situations. So that's great advice for I guess younger kids growing up. Maybe some parents that are looking for their kids to play hockey. There are some kids chase the wins, and it's not always about chasing the wins. So that's good advice for you. So now you're playing in the AHL, ECHL, and then you decide, or the next move was to go to Norway. So when did you decide that, like, your time in North America maybe was up, there wasn't an opportunity for you to move forward or play another season in the AHL or be a full-time AHL player? Maybe then that's when you decided to go to Norway. So how did that decision come about, and when did you think it was time for you to maybe go look overseas?
Yeah, I felt like my second year with Belleville, I thought was going to be another opportunity to play and to develop, and potentially have that opportunity to play in Ottawa when the team wasn't that great. Yeah, I kind of hung on for as long as I could, but ultimately at the end it just seemed like I kept hitting a wall, and then another big trade comes, and then in the summer I was looking to see what would work for me, and at my time I think I was 28 at the time, 29, so a little bit older, and just felt like the league was getting younger and younger, and you're only getting older, so kind of had to look out for myself. And at that point there, I didn't think there was much else that I needed to develop at the time. So I had the opportunity to search over in Europe, and take a look at what the opportunity was there. The money was great. They treat you very well in most countries. I have no issues with any place I played with. I know some places in Europe, in the lower leagues, you can get kind of some shady things going on, but where I was, they took care of you. You get your house paid for, your car paid for. When you get paid in euros, it's net euro, whatever your contract is. So that's all take-home money, which at the time was going to surpass what I was making, in the American League, and trying to grind it out. So, just kind of more of a livelihood change, something different, a new experience. Using hockey as a crutch to see the world, I think, was another thing at the forefront of my mind. So definitely glad I did it. I'm almost kind of regretful in a sense that I didn't do it earlier, because of how much fun I had when I was over there. But obviously my journey was totally different. I'm grateful for the experience. I'm grateful for the opportunities that the teams gave me to play, and obviously some moments I'll never forget. Living in LA in my second year was cool. Playing at Scotiabank Arena against the Marlies on my birthday. My first year in Belleville was awesome, but going overseas to get to play in some of the cool arenas in Oslo and even in Swiss and Czech and some of those places that I played with, those are experiences that last a lifetime too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, you played about 7 years overseas, and my next question was kind of like, what was your experience, which you kind of talked about a little bit. Well, what's like maybe one thing outside of hockey about playing overseas, like that you enjoyed there, that you think like maybe might be a good benefit for some of those kids that are like on the bubble that might not get to the NHL but are good enough to go play overseas. So what's one thing that maybe you felt was like a real good experience you had over there outside, maybe outside of hockey?
Yeah, outside of hockey, I'd say the experience is to travel. You can get a flight at any point and fly anywhere in Europe for like €50. My wife and I were taking flights over our breaks for €50 to fly to Paris for 4 days and go explore a new city and country and stuff like that. So, but yeah, in terms of the actual hockey part as well, I mean, I'd say there's just the opportunity is there's so many teams, so many opportunities. Imports are heavily relied upon there, so they pay them handsomely to be relied upon. So if you have the opportunity to go play over there in a good city and a good fit with a good culture organization that takes care of them, takes care of you, it kind of checks all the boxes when you're, as you're a hockey player. I know everybody wants this NHL dream. I had it too, but it's kind of cool that there is another world out there to be explored and to enjoy. And I wouldn't have played 7 years there if I wasn't enjoying it and in good countries and good organizations that take care of you.
That's awesome. That's good. That's good to know that there's other avenues besides just going to NHL for kids who want to continue playing hockey and playing pro at the pro level. And it's pretty good hockey over there as well, and they take care of you, so it's a lot of fun. So before we transition to what you're doing now, you just recently retired, I guess. And what was like? How did you manage your finances through your playing days when you were started making money playing hockey? So what kind of challenges did you have, and how did you start, like, sort of, what did you do with your money and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, when I signed my first pro contract, it's like, you're finally actually making money. When I was in college, I was working like campus security for $7.25 an hour, working a couple hours a week. So it was, tough. And then you get that first check, you get a little bit of a bonus or whatever, and you think you're a millionaire. So you don't want to try to spend it all in one place. But I kind of did the smart thing, I think. Well, looking back, is what the advice that older guys had given me was to buy myself real estate. I wasn't going to be in Toronto, obviously, so I bought my first property when 2 years after I had signed. So I kind of saved up a little bit of money, bought my first property. But even during the times when I was going out, I tried to eat at home. I try not to eat out on at dinners. Obviously on the road, you're going to eat out. Just that's kind of like a camaraderie thing and team bonding. So I never wanted to miss those. But you kind of live within your means, right? You have to know that I was playing in the American League, and at the time I was making a fraction of what some of these guys were making, and we had guys like Brian Bickle, who was on $4.5 million deal, and I couldn't do what he was doing every day, right? But that was okay. Like, I had to live within my means, and having the discipline to know, like, I had to put money aside. I wanted to prepare for my future. My plan was to save up for my first place on my own, to be able to potentially either live in it or rent it out. So I kind of just structured every paycheck to myself. Like, I had my credit card that I would pay off, that I would use for my daily stuff, and then I would have like a savings that I would kind of just allot monthly, that I would put aside. And that was huge for me, because when I went, I actually had given myself 3 years, so I ended up buying my place after 2 years, because I was able to kind of put aside a good chunk of money. And it wasn't easy when I was living in LA, because the cost of living out there is astronomical. But yeah, I was able to kind of plan and prepare. And once I was able to buy that first place, it was kind of a really cool experience. I never bought the big car, fancy car. I drove I drove a car that my parents had and passed it down to me, kind of thing. So, and I was so comfortable with doing that, it didn't bother me at all. It was the materialistic things that some people get caught up in, and I made sure that I kind of took a different path because I had bigger aspirations
That's great because a lot of players, like you said, get that big first paycheck and then go out and like buy the nice fancy car and go out for nice dinners and don't think about saving some of that money or putting it away for later on when your career's over. And so that's great that you were listening to some of the older guys there and went out and bought a house and and started saving some of your money up front and not really going out and blowing it all over the place. So then, so you really just finished playing hockey like recently. 2024, 2025 was your last season, which was last season. So when did you sort of realize that that was going to be your last season, and then and you were thinking about transitioning, I guess, to your next career where you are now with a real estate investment firm? How did you realize that it maybe was time to sort of stop playing hockey and sort of figure out what you want to do next?
Yeah, I'd say I had been kind of preparing for it for a couple of years. You never know how long you're going to play, right? So you always want to have a backup plan. When I was playing in LA, I ended up applying for my MBA, and I got it 18 months later. So I had the education piece. It was just more the experience. I had been interning with. I love real estate. That's why I bought my first property when I did, and I kind of enjoy following the market. So I had gone and worked with a couple private equity firms in the summer, interned mostly, job shadow, just kind of got a feel for it, and I really liked it. So over time, I had just been preparing myself for the transition. I had applied to a bunch of places just to see if I can go through the interview process, because that's a huge component to job applications. You got to be able to present yourself well and be prepared for what they might ask you. So yeah, I had done that for probably, I'd say, 2 seasons, and then last season it just kind of got to the point where towards the end of the year, I could kind of see that the team wasn't necessarily wanting to re-sign me. If they did, it would be for the same money. So I wasn't really getting ahead. My wife and I just had gotten married the season before. We were closing on a house here in Toronto. So just kind of timing and then just an opportunity that arose that I honestly couldn't really pass on. I had networked. I had spent most of my afternoons, which pro hockey players will understand, that you got so much downtime. So in my afternoons, I spent networking, talking with people on the phone, anything from NHL scouting, coaching, to private equity firms, real estate firms, tech sales. Like I was networking pretty much, multiple times a week, just speaking with anybody and everybody that was willing to talk to me. So over time, I just kind of felt like this opportunity came up towards the end of the season, and I was looking at the transition piece for myself, and it just made sense for my wife and I to kind of make that decision. And my wife actually is more upset than I am that we retired. She loved living the European lifestyle, but it just worked for us, honestly. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity here that I got, and I'm learning a lot. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to kind of continuing to grow here, my next chapter in my life.
So how has that transition been from, I guess, finishing playing hockey? It's only been a few months since you stopped playing hockey now, and now having to go to a 9 to 5 job instead of being in the gym, training, that kind of stuff, being on the ice, practicing, being with the guys in the dressing room. So how is that? How do you feel? Like, it's only been a few months, like I said, but how's that transition been for you to moving into a regular job career?
Yeah, it was definitely scary at first. I had a lot of nerves on my first day of work. It was almost like going back to my first day of school again. So, but I tell people all the time, like, us hockey players, we have all of the skills. The only thing we don't really have is experience. But when I came here and I interviewed, the C-suite here is all high-end guys. They appreciate athletes. They know what athletes can bring to the table. So I just had to be myself. Ultimately, the other stuff I could figure out and I could learn. I had to figure out how to send a calendar invite and how to work my email and all of those things that just came natural to people because they've done it for so long. But us athletes don't really have to do that. So there was a giant learning curve at first, I'd say, for the first 2 to 4 weeks, and then slowly start to settle in. We're creatures of habits, so I created my own routine, really. I still get up in the morning. I still do a small lift before work. I have breakfast, and I come here, and at the office, I still kind of have a routine. I set aside time for myself. So all of those things that I could take from playing the sport, I've kind of applied here as best as I could. And yeah, now I'm definitely, like I said, I'm grateful for the opportunity and the experience. I think, I've come a long way, only in this short amount of time. I'm looking forward to learning every day. I enjoy learning. I love reading. And just learning new things. I honestly, like, I came to a point where I was tired of talking about power play forechecks and face-off plays and all of that stuff. I kind of wanted to expand my brain a little bit, so it's been so nice to get to do that. Everybody here has been so welcoming. I think that's the other thing I was looking for too, is like a good culture. A good, I know, understand the corporate lifestyle is a little bit different than going into a hockey locker room, but you want people who want to help you succeed and care about you as a person and your professional development. And I've seen that here tremendously, and the direction that this company's.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a pretty good place to be, especially when you're welcomed and have the flexibility to have a runway to learn and move your way in instead of them like expecting you to be at a certain level right away. So that's good. And yeah, there's lots of skills that come from playing hockey that can be transitioned to the corporate world. So that's pretty awesome. So in the next like 5 to 10 years, where do you see yourself, going and that kind of stuff? Where do you feel like you want to get back into some kind of hockey role, or do you think you're going to stay in the investment side, real estate investment side, and kind of try to grow that business with where you are?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for right now, I've actually kind of wanted to cut ties with hockey for a little bit and just kind of sever the relationship. I love hockey. I'm so passionate about it. I enjoy watching it from time to time. That part will never leave me. I think it's just more about trying to use my brain in a different way, and I feel like I've got so much. I've got so much knowledge. I've learned so much through school and my MBA, and I read quite a bit, like I said. So I'd like to apply that into, something different. Where I would be maybe in 5 to 10 years, I don't know. I've been asked to coach. I've been asked to help scout. I've been asked to be an agent. I'm not ready right now. Maybe it'll change, in 2 or 3 years' time. Maybe next season. I don't know, but I just felt like right now I wanted to get my feet on the ground here and what I'm doing and really immerse myself and just it's something different. I've done the same thing for 30 years, so just to kind of have a change, I felt was nice. And watching hockey, I actually, oddly enough, I don't miss it yet. Watching some of the exhibition games, the NHL, and I've gone to see some games here from some buddies that coach some teams. So I'll say like I'm not like overly missing it, but I'm sure at some point it'll change. At some point I'll coach and join a couple buddies and coach a minor hockey team or what have you. And for right now, I kind of wanted to limit the travel. I wanted to be at home because I hadn't been for so long. I've missed so many things. Got to be home for my dad's 65th birthday. I hadn't been home for his birthday since he was 51, so 14 years. My first Thanksgiving at home coming up, my first Christmas at home in 7 years. So all of these things I'm just looking forward to right now in the immediate future, but who's to say it doesn't change? I enjoy the freedom and kind of the fluidity. That's my life right now.
So you're not missing the hockey world right now or at all?
No, not at all. No, I get
Yeah.
calls all the time from guys that are playing right now and stuff that's going on their teams, and what do you think? And we're trying to bring in this player. And I'm just like, I talk to them because they're my buddies, but ultimately I'm like, I could do without these conversations. I just want to see how they're doing, honestly. But it is nice to kind of have guys all over the NHL, all over Europe, just to follow them and keep it tabs with them. And I appreciate that and their friendship. Hockey's given me everything I have, so I never want to say I'm going to turn my back to it. But I definitely wouldn't mind talking about something else other than figuring out their power play breakout.
Right. And now that you're like in a corporate job and you have a regular salary and you don't have to worry about contracts, how are you feeling now about your financial situation? Any challenges that you have or that you've come up like compared to playing hockey where you're like contract to contract like year after year, you have to figure out like, so you really only are 6 to 8 months and then you have to sort of figure out what you're going to do next. Where now you kind of are more secure in terms of not having to worry about, oh, I need to go sign a new contract in 6 months from now. I need to make sure I perform so that I can continue to do this. You don't need that right now where you are. So how do you feel the transition between, like on the financial side, between playing hockey, pro hockey, and having to worry about, the contracts every year compared to wearing in the corporate world right now where you kind of more I guess have more secure pay?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not not missing the stress of Christmas time comes around and everyone starts talking about their contracts for the following year. So I like that I know what I'm making salary wise. I like that I can kind of plan and prepare for that. I feel like that stress just weighs on so many guys, right? And I didn't have the luxury of signing a multi-year deal. I was year to year every year. Sometimes for my benefit, other times it was like just what I could take. But ultimately, yeah, this is the stress of living, paycheck to paycheck, putting money aside. Even towards the end, when I kind of knew it was coming to an end, I knew we had all these expenses coming up. Like I said, my wife and I moving into our house and whatnot. So like, you're kind of trying to plan in your mind, like, okay, I have this much money saved up. We have this much money. Do I have to start, dipping into some of my TFSAs? Like, all of these things started to come into play, right? But I think now where that stress is kind of gone, it's like I know what I'm making every month. I can live within my means. I know what my paycheck is going to be consistently, bi-weekly every month. So having that security is something that I think I kind of took for granted. Especially even when the season would end. Like, what do I do in the summer? Because I'm not getting a paycheck, right? So my season would end in April. I wouldn't get a paycheck till August or September. So trying to be able to plan even just for the summer, how can I live? How can I, the things that I can do, the things that I can't do. I can't go on this guy's trip. I can't go on, that person's bachelor party. I can't go out for that expensive dinner. Like, I had to kind of live within my means, and that's kind of the downside that a lot of people don't really think about too. I didn't have the luxury of signing the multi-million dollar, less than $100,000 sometimes a year, right? So you got to kind of live within those means as you continue to grow.
That's awesome. It's great to hear from you for other players coming up, I guess, that need to sort of figure out what their plan is and make sure they're saving their money. So while you were playing, what was one of maybe the biggest financial mistakes or regrets that you had when you were playing hockey?
That's a good question. One of the biggest financial regrets that I probably have, yeah,
Your
yeah,
mistake that you made.
yeah, I'd probably want to say, like, at times when during the summers, not planning enough in the summers. After I got out of college, I felt like, the money was going to continue to flow in. Guys from college, we'd always get together in the summers, and it was just like we would go down to Arizona, have a golf trip and whatnot, and it was like I felt like the money was just going to be endless, and I probably didn't really need to do those trips, or I didn't need to stay for 5 days, and like doing those little things that, it's unfortunate because you want to be able to experience and don't want to miss out on that. But I think for myself, when I was younger, when I first got that paycheck, I felt like this money's going to flow in, it's only going to get more, and you kind of lose sight of saving for a rainy day, because one day the money's going to stop, the contract will stop, and what do you have after that? Can you live off of it? What if you can't find a job for 6 months? What happens? I know guys that their season ends in March or April, and they don't sign until November. So that means that you're not getting $1 from a paycheck. So what do you have in terms of investments to live off? What about your savings? All of these things that, like, I didn't really think about when I was younger. So I use the trips when I was younger, as kind of a crutch. Like, I wouldn't trade those trips for the world, obviously, and those experiences, but being probably a little bit more smart about timing and finding the budget friendly flight, or maybe looking for a place that fit into our means at the time. So I'd say just kind of saving for a rainy day is something that I took time for me to learn as a young guy. And as I got older, I became the guy who would cook at home and not go out for dinners, and not go out for lunch after every practice and all that stuff, because it could be easy to get caught up in that. And that's a huge financial burden. That's if you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from.
That's something the people definitely need to think about. And so let's end with one quick kind of fun question. When you're in Europe, I know that you guys have a lot of time off when you play there. Like, the games are spread out a little bit more. It's not as intense as playing in North America. What was one of your favorite places that you traveled to while you were there in Europe?
Man, I got to choose one.
You could say a couple.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got to live pretty close to some big cities, so Prague was cool. Like I lived in Czech, so I was 30 minutes from Prague. So we would drive into Prague like on off days and stuff, my wife and I. I'd say London was incredible. I proposed to my wife there, so London will always have a piece of our heart there in front of Big Ben. I think my wife would say Paris. She's been bugging me to go back to Paris ever since we left. So yeah, I'd say probably a few of, I'd probably say those. I mean, Italy, we did a cool Italy trip at the end of my 1 year. We started up in the north and went all the way down to the south, and Spain twice. Mallorca was beautiful. It's so cool because Europe, like you have the opportunity to travel all these places, right? And I had all these places, like I'd heard about them, but when I was living over here in North America, I never had the time to, or the financial, means to do it either. So getting to experience all those different cultures is something that, like, those are life experience. We have those photos, we have those experiences to take back. But if I'm going to choose one place, my wife and I really love Calabria, like it's in the south. I'm Italian. I'm not Calabrese. My wife is, but it was just so cool being down there and just being like in Tropea along. Yeah, that was a place where I could see myself settling down, many years and later for retirement. But yeah, I'd probably say down in Calabria.
That's awesome. All right. Well, this has been great, Daniel. Thanks for coming on. And I think a lot of good information and a lot of young hockey players coming up and maybe parents as well would be great to listen to what you had to say. So thanks for coming on for this podcast today.
Yeah, thanks, Brett, for having me. I appreciate it. And what you're doing for the game is awesome. And keep pumping this content out because I think a lot of people need this and reminders as well. So it's awesome what you're doing for the game.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to the Financial Power Play. If this episode sparked something for you, be sure to subscribe, share it with your hockey crew, and leave a review. Want to talk about building your own financial playbook? Visit uptownwealthmanagement.com to book a free consultation. Until next time, stay focused, stay flexible, and keep playing your game.